Hey everybody, thanks for joining us again for another one. It's American Coin and Currency. Today we are talking about Tone Morgan's Art of Chemistry and Market Premiums Explained. This is Dustin Lee, host, social media lead here on American Coin and Currency. Today we have John Mady, CEO, founder of American Coin and Currency. How's it going, John?
It's going great, Dustin. How are you today?
It's good. It's, markets are steady. We've had a lot of inventory. Products are selling off the shelf. My eBay's been pumping out some sales, and it's been definitely a contrast from the beginning of the month. It's exciting to talk about Morgans and how they're toned.
One of my favorite subjects, actually, and it's a subject that I think it's important that our viewers and our subscribers and our friends watch and learn more about, because it's a segment of the market that over the last 5-6 years has quietly been exploding. And those in the know have been able to get some really, really great deals. And we'll get into that onto how you do that, how you look for those good deals, and then how you profit from those deals, whether you're on the sell side or the buy side. We're gonna have a lot of great information for our viewers today.
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of information around Tone Morgans and Tone coins in general. But before we get into it, be sure to subscribe. If you've seen earlier, there's a QR code. Scan that, and you can get all our links. And if you guys are looking for anything or looking to buy anything, let us know. I'll plug that information right here. But it's always exciting to educate people and give you guys the little safeguards. We covered a lot of these topics prior, but it's good to follow through with them and give you guys a little revision. Maybe there's something we forgot, maybe things we can add to it. But yeah, we'd like to let you guys know what's going on in the industry and the hobby, and keep you guys on track with what's going on.
Absolutely. And the history of these is really interesting. We briefly talked before the show about other toned coins.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, back in the let's say the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, before people realized what they had, dealers included used to clean Morgans. Even when I got into the business, the term blast white was everything. That was all the rage when I would sell rolls of Morgans, or typically rolls, never sold like just individual ungraded, but that would be the big selling point. Like, these are all blast white, gem BU, brilliant circulated, and that was years back, and I didn't know about toners then. And so one thing that I want to throw out there for everyone is, first rule, don't clean any coins.
No.
If you come across a collection, if you inherit a collection, you buy one, whatever the case may be, if you have coins in your possession that you didn't have yesterday and you're going through them, a lot of people still, I hear it all the time. Oh, should I clean this?
Mm,
No, don't
no.
clean your coins. Don't that would be the same. My best analogy would be like buying an antique piece of furniture and sanding it down and restaining it. You're getting rid of all of those decades and decades, if not centuries, of patina
Mm,
that adds tremendous value to the piece. So, unfortunately, many Tone Morgans in particular were are gone to history. They were cleaned, and now they're no longer what they could have been, especially 30, 40 years later. The toning, because the toning progresses over time, and
mm,
it's a chemical reaction that happens to the silver in particular, mostly by sulfur, and we can get into that how
mm,
that occurs. Um, but you'll see Morgan toners. I see a lot of dimes that are beautifully toned.
mhm.
Uh, Toned the nickels.
Yeah.
Nickels get some of the nicest toning. In fact, I had one the other day that I bought a collection last week, and I was looking through some of the raw coins, and
Mm.
luckily they were all in flips, and one of them was this nickel from the 40s, and it was absolutely stunning. And I put it aside, and I can't find it. I don't know where I put it. I might have put it back into the with all the rest of them. But I was going to send that in to get that, just get it graded for the toning.
Mhm.
I didn't care about the year or the mint mark in this case. The toning far surpassed um, any other value that the year mint mark could have had. So
Mm.
you see it on a lot of different coins, and so if you come across, typically in my experience, when I've come across toners, and that's the term I'll use, toners in the wild. Let's say like when I'm not specifically purchasing them because it's a toner,
Mm.
see them in old albums that have been left undisturbed for decades. And there's just that chemical reaction that happens with a bit of sulfur that's either in a tissue, in an envelope, in some of those older um, coin coin books, the holders that
Mhm.
um, accelerate the natural toning process. So what this one time a few years back, I had a young guy. He reached out to me, and he's like, "Hey, my grandfather passed away and left me with this book of Morgans." And so I said, "Hey, send me some pictures. Let me see what we're working with." Typically, when I get that, you get a book. It's missing the key dates always,
Right.
and the Morgans are just circulated Morgans that are filled in. In this case, and this is the only time this has ever happened, and I'll send you pictures so we can at some point put them up in the future. But
Mm.
he had every key date, mint mark, every key mint mark. You're talking like this 1879 CC, 1899 CC,
Mm.
1892S,
Wow.
1893S. He had the 1895 proof in there. Um, and some of these coins were the most beautifully toned. In fact, most of them in this album, because they had been sitting in there for literally decades and decades and decades.
Wow.
And it just got better and better. And because, you see there's something magical and valuable about a coin, especially a Morgan that has one side toning to it.
Mm.
But when you get double sided toning, now you're in a completely different level. And
Wow.
so when I was going through this book, I didn't go through, but I was looking through the photos. I go to the next photo and I see the other side of the coin, and I'm just like, oh my god, they're almost all double toners, and in like
Oh.
in gem condition. So I made him an offer. I didn't end up buying it. I mean, this book was probably not probably. It was right now you could probably sell that book for a $500,000. I mean, we're talking about unbelievably nice coins.
Mm.
So they are still out there, and a lot of times people collectors would think of your grandfather, buying these or collecting these coins back in the 40s and 50s, and then a lot of them were made to put on shelves in libraries.
Uh,
So people that have books in their homes, libraries, whatever the case may be, they would just stash them up there, and the family might not even know that that book sitting right there, that three-ring binder, is filled with ultra valuable coins because it just looks like a book, just like maybe a
right.
photo album or something. So there's still treasures to be found, and that's the theme of our show today. Treasures in plain sight,
Mhm.
uh, toned coins, and so that's one thing to always look out for, and something that I always get excited about, and I know you get excited about it too, and so that's why I think it's really important that we kind of like just grind down on this a little bit and inform our viewers on exactly what to look for and what to expect when getting into this world of toners, because they're all unique. Think of fingerprints. These are all like fingerprints. Not one is alike. They all tone differently. They're like snowflakes. That's probably a better analogy.
Yeah.
Each one is unique because of the
True.
chemical process that happens, which I like to call nature's artwork.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's it shows the true uniqueness of these coins. There's no one of the same, and they can be anywhere in the world. They can come
Yep.
from different places where the chemical reaction could have been, significant. It could have been just, maybe grandma's old album in the back, something like that. Like, it could be easily someone actually looking and seeking out these tone coins themselves. So, I mean, really, just can happen randomly. But yeah, I wanted to talk about some of the process, like how the toning, like oxidation, and how maybe like the sulfur exposure, like how does that play a part when it
Sure.
comes to like different mediums, like paper or canvases, like envelopes, like um,
Yep.
stuff like that, like from the albums or stuff.
Yeah. So when the U.S. Mint would be producing, we're going to just talk about Morgans right now.
Mhm.
So when they would produce Morgans, they would come off the production line and they would get put into burlap sacks,
Wow.
and they would line the interior of the sacks with just a thin layer of sulfur. And
Mhm.
what that was initially for was to prohibit rats from chewing through the bags. For I guess bags or rats don't like sulfur. So uh, a lot of Morgans, by a lot, I mean tens of thousands of them, sat in these bags
Yeah.
for decades. And you've probably heard the term before because we've talked about it on the show, the GSA hoard, Government Services Administration
Yeah.
hoard. Back in the 70s,
Okay.
they, discovered um, a hoard of bagged Morgans that
Oh.
had been sitting there for literally decades. And at that time, you could send in, I think it was like $2.50 or $3 to the mint, and they would send you one of these GSA hoard Morgans. And it was the luck of the draw. You might have received a rare date, which I know some people, did, and we've sold before, or just a common date. But
Hmm.
the
Okay.
coins that were sitting on the outside of that lining, that chemical process would start. And in my experience, for some reason, it seems like the coins that were held um, in more humid climates seem to uh, have more toning. And so, what I mean by this is, we've
Okay.
sold a lot of toners over the years, probably I don't know, a couple $1 million worth of toners throughout the years. And so my experience is that a lot of them are from the mid 1800s,
Mhm.
like not let's say like 1881 to 1889, that area,
Okay.
and a lot of them are from New Orleans. In fact,
Okay.
the
I
big
see.
majority always have like 1881 O, and that'll have some nice toning on it.
Hmm.
So I guess the climate might have had something to do with that. When they initially bagged them, there was humidity in there, and I'm sure humidity could get through a burlap bag with no problem. But
Yeah.
something about that, I don't see, and I haven't seen, and of course they're out there,
Hmm.
but a lot of San Francisco toners or many Philadelphia mint toners. So when we get like a San Francisco toner in here, that normally sells really quickly because they're just not as common as the New Orleans.
Hmm.
So it's probably in terms of what's most common. You have New Orleans, Philadelphia, and then San Francisco, and then Carson City at the very tail end. I've only seen a few Carson City, real nice toners that I would consider to be nature's artwork.
Huh.
And so, go ahead, Dustin.
Oh, it's just interesting because, I mean, being that certain mints all supply that certain region, being that more on the West Coast, that didn't occur. Where yeah, on the East Coast, or at least in like New Orleans, that's like more humid and more. Um, so interesting. That's an interesting take. So does that play a role? And I know we're focused on Morgans, but does that play a role in other toned coins as well?
I'm sure it does. So for instance, like here's a foreign piece. I don't know if you can see the toning that well. You see some
Uh,
blue there.
Somewhat, yeah. Okay, a little bit
And,
more, yeah.
yeah, a little bit more. And it's not anything crazy. It's just blue with little green. But this is a 1941 Newfoundland. So, Canadian coin,
Mm,
dime, uh, that has that toning on it. Uh, Pennies, I've seen pennies with some amazing toning, absolutely amazing toning
mm,
on them. They get very beautiful. What I and a lot of collectors like are what's known also as crescent toning. So the way that happened was when these coins were sitting in these bags,
mm.
you might have had one coin kind of over the other, like that a little bit,
Yeah.
and the part that was exposed to the inside of that bag
Oh, okay,
would
I see.
tone, and of course the other coin that was exposed would tone, but the
Just a part of it.
one coin covering over the
Yeah.
metal on the other one, and since it's circular, would cause
Right.
what's known as a crescent, and
Ah.
that would give crescent toning to a
Huh.
coin, which I don't know, something about that I find really, it's just very interesting and cool.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely seen coins either one similar to that and definitely toning where I've been like, oh, these are dirty coins, essentially, when I was a kid, not knowing any different. Um,
And
that's
that's easy to fall into that. And I've done that when I first started.
wow. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people. Yeah, like you said, before people were just washing their coin and cleaning them. Um, that's just
Exactly.
who knew that was one thing that would be something of value. But yeah, it makes sense. You can't recreate that. I mean, maybe with all those elements and they sat for 200-300 years, maybe that could occur. But like you know, I'm sure someone's out there. They're like in a controlled, humidified environment that could be toning coins right now. Like
I've
essentially,
never seen anyone, and I've heard, and I've actually talked to people, long time ago at a coin show. I was speaking to this one gentleman. I don't
yeah.
know how we got on the conversation of toners. He was telling me that someone told him one of those things. Oh, I know a guy who knows how to tone, create toners that pass grading. And I called BS on it because I've
Right.
never, I don't know of any way you could do that. I mean, toned coins could be created through heat, through chemical
Yeah.
exposure, other
Right.
ways. One of the ways I've heard people try to do it is put the coins in a box with lemon juice, like citric acid, lemon juice, things like that, and
Jeez.
and tissues, and just stuff them away in like up in the attic where it's hot,
Right.
and just leave them for a few weeks, and supposedly that creates toning, but that's artificial toning, and
Right.
that's not going to have the same value, and it's not going to pass muster, meaning it's not going to get through the grading services. So if I sent that into CAC or PCGS or NGC to get graded, it's going to come back as, they might grade it as what it is, like let's say MS61, but it'll be details artificial toning.
Mm. Yeah, that's another thing to we can segue into a little bit before we get into more of like the visual and like some of the safeguards, like how can you tell, how can you what's the difference between the both?
Well, the best way to tell is if when chemical reactions like we're talking about right now occur over a span of many, many, many years, decades, that toning is gradual.
Mm.
So you'll see the color, the gradients of the colors will
Okay.
smoothly transition from one to the other throughout the coin. Whereas if a coin was heated up or is artificial, you'll have like blue and then red right next to it, or orange, or champagne. And so it's there's something off about it. A trained eye, you could tell pretty much right away that it's not the same. That nature didn't do that, because only time can do that
Mm.
correctly. And but what's also interesting, Dustin, speaking of the time, is that peace dollars, which are also 90% silver,
Mm.
uh, do not get toned like Morgans do.
Huh.
And so we we've sold toned peace dollars before, but they're exceedingly rare, and they're very expensive.
Mm.
And so doing research in the past, we discovered that, I guess, with the peace dollars, which were from 1921, which also that was the last year of the Morgans,
Mm.
to 1934, that was the run for peace dollars. They used a different acid bath on
Uh,
the planchettes prior to production, which may have prohibited, or not may have, probably did prohibit that natural chemical reaction from occurring.
mm.
So when you do get a peace dollar that has, I've never seen a peace dollar with monster toning. And for people that are listening and like, what the hell is he talking about? Monster toning. Monster toning is a coin that is absolutely full of vibrant color. That's a monster tone coin. And there's different levels of monster tone coin. There we go. So you could see that some have different levels of toning, but for a true monster tone, um, the percentage of double-sided monster tone Morgans, I think, is like point zero, is point, and then four or five zeros, 1% of the overall total production of Morgans ever produced that will achieve monster toning. So I mean, they're exceedingly, exceedingly rare, and those of they're also very, very, very valuable, and they don't come to market too often. But as you can see on the screen here, to all the different kinds of toning that can take place. We've had just some absolutely stunning pieces. My favorite being the double sided.
Mm.
So you take a monster tone Morgan, and now if you have a double sided monster tone Morgan, that's the rarity is even more so.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
yeah, it just didn't happen with peace dollars. But my point being with time is that I do and have come across uh, American Silver Eagles that are monster tone, and they
Hmm.
started minting those in 1986. So, and we're not talking artificial toning. This is real toning. So, I'm
Jeez.
not sure what caused that acceleration in toning, but these are legit. So if anyone gets the chance, if you're at a dealer, if you're, you're going to buy coin from someone or from at a show, and you see an American Silver Eagle that has the toning on it, you should grab it because I have not only Silver Eagles but other coins that I can tell that in 5, 10, 20 years they're already toning. You could see it in the slab, and every year that I pull them out, they've toned a little bit more. But yeah, so that's a great little piece of advice for our viewers is that if you find a toned American Silver Eagle, pick it up because the other person might not realize the value that they have there in that, and that those toned American Silver Eagles sell for a large premium because of that, because of nature's artwork.
Yeah, if you're looking for anything specific, give us a call 561-310-8341, uniquecoins@gmail.com. Find us Linktree, American Coin ACC. Always there's something on eBay if you're looking for something. American CC, you can find us at eBay anywhere on Google Maps, Yelps, and Apple Maps.
Yep.
But yeah, if you're looking for any Morgans or anything in the collection you want to get rid of, let us know. Yeah, let's touch back on what's so we touched on some toning, sulfur, storage conditions. Yeah, because that's
Yeah,
interesting. Um,
yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, I was just kind of recapping on the chemical or the acid wash or the chemical wash with the peace dollars in comparison. Um, Being that you did see some of those, were those also in that same region, like New Orleans, kind of East Coast?
Yeah, I mean, could you repeat that question, Dustin? I'm looking at
Oh,
three different things at once. Sorry
no
about that.
worries. I get like that too. No, I was saying like when you come across any of those peace dollars, are they kind of in the same factors when it comes to the Morgans, when it comes to Tony?
Factors as far as what caused it.
Yeah, like if it was in New Orleans kind of region, like the humidity, like or
Um, mm, no, no,
completely different.
there's so few of them. It's there's no concentration of any particular mint,
Makes sense.
and I don't believe that peace dollars were minted in New Orleans
Ah,
off the top of
okay,
my
fair.
head. I think, yeah, in fact, yeah, it was Philly, San Francisco, and Denver for peace dollars.
So,
So they're few and far between. And if you, again, if you're at a coin show, if you're at a dealer, and they just, some dealers just have boxes of coins you can go through
mhm.
and just buy loose. If you see one that's starting to tone, I would pick it up. I would put it in a paper envelope and seal it, and I would just put it away and forget about it.
Mm. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So, yeah, I wanted to talk about some of like the toning, like discoloration, I guess to say, but there's like levels to it, right? There's like gold, there's amber, there's red, there's blue, there's green.
Roy
Um,
G. Biv,
yeah, RGB, yeah. So that's
every color in the rainbow.
so. What is more of like the sought out like look? You know, is there a certain specific, if it's more
No,
green, is it more blue? Um,
nope. Every customer who enjoys investing and collecting tone coins, they have their, just like artwork. Everyone has their own flavor. It's the same with toners. Some people love. I particularly love vibrant blue in the coin. A lot of the blue hues, but some people love reds and yellow, orange, champagne. Uh, Sometimes you get a mix of all of them, but everyone has their own things that they like. And but blue is probably the most popular. Uh, and I think as far as like as time goes on, the coin will start, and I forgot which color it starts with toning, but then it adds over time additional colors with I just had it up with the okay, so you have the first cycle, which is like light colors, think of like beiges, things like
Mm.
that. Second cycle, you get into the blues, the yellows, and then red, violet. Third cycle, you start getting into more blue, and then you get into some greens and
Mm.
more vibrant yellow and a darker red, almost like a fuchsia. I should say it's probably like a lighter red. Fourth cycle is even a darker blue, darker green, almost like a purple. And then the fifth cycle is like a navy blue and black, almost a black.
Oh wow.
So the fifth cycle might be 50 years later, depending on
Ah,
the
okay.
situation. So yeah, just depending on when that coin was found, when it was slabbed, let's say. I think that's the best way to protect them. Um, if you have, and what's interesting about Tone Morgans is that it's not so much you're in this case you're really buying the coin, not the slab.
Mm.
You're not buying the grade. You're buying the coin for its artwork. Now there is the best of both worlds, and they are out there where you can get a beautifully toned Morgan, let's say, that's also a key date and a high grade. They do exist, but
Mm.
you have to have serious money for those. Um, but there's also on the other side of the spectrum, people can get involved collecting tone coins that aren't super vibrant, that aren't at that end stage, that fifth cycle, that they didn't get there yet. So there's point being there's a place for everyone
True.
who would want to get involved with what their budget is, whether it's in the beginning or whether you're looking to spend 15 or if depending on let's say it's a 1893s mint state 66. Now you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars just because of that grade. Forget the toning. The toning though on that is going to add even additional value. But we've sold many coins that are for thousands and thousands of dollars, that if the coin was not toned, let's say like an 1881 San Francisco or New Orleans MS62, so extremely common grade and a common date for a Morgan. You get those all day right now for $100, $115 on online.
Wow.
Um, add some unbelievable toning to one side of that, and now you're looking at a $2,000 coin. Add
Wow.
more incredible toning to the reverse of the coin. Now you're looking, the numbers just go up from
Right.
there. So
Insane.
there's a lot of variables here, but it's a it's another element of coin collecting that is like we've talked about so many times. There's so many different areas you can go down, different avenues, and become an expert in that particular space.
Mm.
And so there are a few dealers out there that I don't know of any dealers that only deal in toned coins, because they're not always readily available unless you're willing to pay, go into the secondary market and pay another dealer for them. Um, but yeah, it's you can get involved with toned coins by buying dimes, right?
Yeah.
Or quarters tone beautifully as well over time. And earlier we talked about nickels, which you could buy, graded nickels that are toned for, under $100, but you have a beautifully toned coin. And so
Mm.
there's something for everyone, I guess is my point when it comes to the toned coins. And there's even gold coins that get some toning. I have a couple that I purposely did not. I think they're like 1888, 1889 Phillies, and there was a low mintage year. That's why I kept them. But in particular, they have toning on them, and I didn't want to send them to customers because the customer, I kind of thought like they would. What are you sending me here? This gold doesn't look like gold. People get gold. They want to, that
Speculate.
luster, that
Yeah.
especially modern gold, right? So um, it does happen with gold. It's exceedingly rare. It's not anything like what happens with silver, the colors and all the variants. But it is a type of toning that's really really unique and different. And I happen to love it. Once I stumbled onto toned coins, and I did stumble into toned Morgans first, kind of accidentally. I never looked back. I just and our clients that appreciate them and love collecting them, that they can't get enough of them because each one's
Yeah.
different. Each one is different.
Yeah. That's interesting. It reminds me of like opals, like how they're
Yeah,
just kind
yeah,
of constant. They're just completely different. They have this certain look, yeah, and like you said, it's like nature's artwork. You really can't just like find it anywhere. You have to be very specific on where to look. And yes, I'm sure some of these people are just like either one stumbling upon it and being like, okay, this is something I want to keep, or even someone that's in the wild that just has coins that are toned that they don't even know. They're just in their
yep,
possession. And like you said, like you can just see it like through their collection. You're like, oh, okay, well, I should probably grab that, buy the whole collection, or just picking up that specific coin. But yeah, that's the eye. That's being able to be, have the eye for those particular coins, and being in the hobby for so long, knowing what to look for and what to identify, and you know, and working with
sure.
specific people that may or may not be like, like you're mentioning about like someone creating artificial one. I mean, there could be somebody like that. And having an eye for that, knowing that this was, artificially, looked at. But when it comes to like grading, because I know you said that the grading isn't as important in comparison to the tone. I know that kind of plays hand in hand, of course. If higher grade, the better. Um, what is like the grading services um like when the intake, are they offering to clean, because they do have services where they can clean the coin, specifically, are they doing this? Is this something they offer? And do people like, use those services as well?
That's a great question. Yes, people use those services. In fact, I just sent some coins in to NGC yesterday, and one of the coins I checked off that I wanted the conservation service if
Hmm.
needed. That's what's nice with the
Ah,
grading services that excuse me, if it's not needed, they won't do it. I think it was like $5 for them just to look at it. And if it's not needed, then fine. They don't do any conservation. And then if it is needed, that's a different price scale. But as far as if I sent in a toned, like let's say an amazingly toned Morgan
right.
to one of the top three graders, I've never had that circumstance because I've never asked for conservation service on a toned Morgan.
Yeah,
But I am curious to know if they would reach out to the customer first and be like,
exactly.
"Hey, are you
That's
sure you want to
you,
make this blast white again?"
right. Yeah,
Because you're destroying a lot of value.
mhm. That's
I
something.
don't know the answer to that one. That's a great question.
Yeah, I'm like, are they making the decisions on their behalf? Are they like, like, hey, maybe this is in their best interest, but is that a service like consultation? Like, yeah, I don't, to my knowledge of grading services, at least the collectors group, which is PSA or PCGS, they've been cutting a little bit of corners. I ain't gonna lie, but PCGS is different sector, um, and they've been, obviously working differently than the card grading services. So maybe NGC is a little bit better. You know, who
Well, the
knows?
problem is staffing. There's
Yeah, staffing.
there's shortage of graders,
That's
qualified
so true. Yeah,
graders, and that's why the turnaround time is literally months.
it's
And
insane. Yeah,
it's
is that what
insane.
you're running to for PCGS and NGC as well? The
Oh yeah, yeah. Unless you unless you pay a premium for
yeah, so
express,
pay to
or
play.
you can do like regular service, and
Right.
then you can pay an extra. I want to say, I don't want to misquote NGC because, like I said, I was filling out those forms yesterday. I think it was like for an extra $15 or $20, you can expedite it to 15-day turnaround. But that's it's a tricky way to say it. Without pissing anyone off over at the grader. They're busy. They're busy.
It's
I
so
understand it.
busy.
So
Yeah.
even if you pay, I've paid for expedited service and
Right.
still waited a month to get a coin back. And it's not their fault. I mean, uh, it's a lot of businesses now are understaffed, especially when you get into something that's really specific, like coin grading. Now, I don't know how much of their and I don't want to get too far off topic, but I don't know how much of their grading is now done using AI. I'm sure a portion is done that way. But when you get into higher tier coins, auction coins, coins that are seven figures and up, I get the top, the oldest, the grader that has been there the longest probably gets not probably, but does get the final look at
Yeah.
and then assesses the final grade because
True.
as you know, you get into seven-figure coins.
Mm.
If you get a plus added to whatever your grade is, if it's a 60 plus, which is in between 60 and 61, that plus could mean $1 million or more difference, when you really get to the very top tier of
Yes.
in the rarefied air of coin collecting and investing. So yeah, it's just how it is right now, and you just have to have patience, and I do have patience. So unless the customer really specifies, hey, I want this, I want it quickly, okay, but you're gonna pay, and then depending on the coin that's getting graded, is that warranted to spend that money? I had someone that came in recently and was like, I want all these coins graded. He had like, I don't know how many, a couple hundred. And I was like,
Oh
well,
wow.
each one of them, do you know how much each one is going to cost to get graded?
Cost
And when
a
I
lot.
told him, he was like, well, yeah, maybe
Right.
not. I'm like, it's not free,
Um.
I mean, it's real professionals with a real skill that grade these coins accurately. So, they get paid well for their service, I'm sure. And
Yeah.
but back to the graded coins. Yeah, what I love about it is that you can get, it's you can get really fantastic pieces that slip the eye.
Mhm.
If you talk to 10 coin collectors, maybe one or two of them you can have a real conversation about tone coins with them. Most don't know anything about tone coins.
Right.
A lot of times, in fact, every time that I know of that we've had, or my coworkers have brought a customer into the toner world, we've sent out a lot of information about tone coins so they can get educated more so than just what we're telling them, so they're comfortable paying that premium for that nature's artwork. So, this is point being that there's still a tremendous amount of opportunity for people to find toned coins out that are still existing out there and to do something with them. Because, like I said, in the last 5 or 6 years, the valuations, they just keep going up and up and up, and it's not like more can be made. You know, I
No.
mean, these take decades to
Yeah.
create. So it's not like, hey, we need more toners. Let's you know, get them in next week. This doesn't work that way. But there's
No.
a lot of opportunity, right? There's still a lot of opportunity because so few people know about them at all. Or if they do, they only know a very little bit.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a niche. And yeah, I mean, people I've come across as a child, like seeing these coins, but didn't know like why they were a different color, why they were, dirty looking, I guess, or stained or something. So, um, yeah, anybody can be, just easily pass these up. Um, but yeah, it's good to have that, expertise. So someone's, focused on a certain niche, especially in the hobby. It's like there's so many directions you can go. And we've talked about fractionals, we've talked about even rare notes, or even coins like US coins from certain
Oh, sure.
years or date key date. Yeah, it's endless.
Private mints,
Private
territorial coins. I
territorial.
mean,
Yeah,
there's just so many avenues we could go down for sure. To your point.
yeah. I think the next show we have is about. I mean, this is kind of adding to what you mentioned about AI grading. I think that's another thing to talk about. Um, Different grading services and like where that line is met, and also like you mentioned about if a grader was a little is more a little like an older grader that's been grading for quite a bit of time, they tend to get like the expedited, at least when it comes to PCGS, or not PCGS but PSA. They get the vintage Pokemon cards, or older baseball cards, or if they get expedited services, they tend to be like the last person to look at them. um,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's what PCGS does as well. But it'd be interesting to get that knowledge if that's the
Yeah,
case.
I would like to know. That'd be a great show. I'd love to have someone from CAC or PCGS or NGC on to kind of
Yeah,
explain how far along AI has permeated their business and their process. Because
right.
even now, like, I have coins over at PCGS that I can't wait to get back. So every day I come in, I log on to PCGS to my account, and I look at my orders, and so, when the coins arrive, they go in the system, and then they get there's a process which is review. And so I'm not sure exactly like who's looking at it during the review process, and then there's the grading process, and then after that is the encapsulation
Hmm.
process, which is that's already been graded. Now it just has to be encapsulated. But I do know that even now, um, even on lower tier coins, and I can speak for NGC on this, that they and PCGS, that they do have one of their more senior graders come
Uh,
by and do a quick once over to make sure that maybe someone who just started, or it doesn't matter if they just started, been there for a few years, that they do have someone, a senior level person, come by and do a final review prior to the final grade. Okay, I agree with that grade. Let's send it to encapsulation. So, there's a lot that has to get done. And, think about how many coins are getting graded every day. I mean, forget about old coins, forget about, us sending, and I have sent toners in to get graded, both
hmm.
Silver Eagles. I've sent plenty of peace dollars in to get graded. In fact, I have two of them right now over at PCGS waiting to get graded that I found in rolls that
Wow.
I bought from someone. And, I bought, I don't know how many rolls, like 40, 50 rolls of Morgans. And he had explained, these were my dad's. And so I got the feeling that they had never been picked through, or at least not in a long time.
Hmm.
So I always like to go through. And even though that takes a tremendous amount of time, because my eyes aren't what they used to be, I did find some key dates in there that were great. I think I mentioned I found an 1879 Carson City and an 1889 Carson City
Wow.
among these rolls. And I found a couple nicely toned Morgans. Now, we're not talking monster tone like you had pulled up a few minutes ago,
Yeah.
but still nicely toned Morgans that were absolutely worth getting graded. Had they not been toned, would I have sent them in to get graded?
No.
No, definitely not. Because they were common date, you know, AU, low MS. It's just not worth it. But
Mm.
because the toning, absolutely it was worth it. And that probably 10 at least made the price 10 times what it would be untoned.
Mm. Yeah, I have a question before we get into the questions from the audience. Um, so when it comes to toning, if you're going to grade it, does that does that keep the condition in its current state, or and then it becomes more toned over time, or is it
In my
better?
in my Yeah, yeah.
I was gonna say, or is it better to not grade it and let it tone without being graded, and then does it matter or?
I in my personal experience, I can only speak for myself.
Mhm.
I would get it graded to
Okay,
protect it,
right.
and B, I have witnessed myself the coins continue to grade. I'm sorry,
Tone.
continue.
It's a mid state 70 now.
It was a 61. Now it's a 63. Yeah, they continue to get better while they're
Let it
encapsulated.
be.
No, they continue to tone while they're
Okay,
in the sonically sealed encapsulation.
that makes sense. Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think the chemicals are more enclosed, so it's able to like absorb it more.
correct. And
Interesting.
and the process started decades ago, so it's just going to continue to tone over time, whether it's in an envelope, a coin book, or encapsulated with no available oxygen to it.
Huh. That'd be interesting if it was in heat in comparison to like a colder environment while it's graded.
I would. That is interesting, and I don't know the answer except for what I know about New Orleans and
Right.
the coins that have come out of there, and I would assume that they would in more humid, hot, maybe not humid, but definitely hotter environments,
Hmm.
and maybe humid too. That they would grade. I'm sorry, that they would tone that acceleration would take place as opposed to being up in stored in Minnesota in a garage.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a little bit colder. All right, let's get into it here. Let's see. Another solid episode. Learned a lot about how premiums are actually built. Thanks for joining. Be sure to
Thank
subscribe.
you.
Um, what are the highest selling toned Morgans?
So there's a collection of about 200 Morgans. Dustin had pulled up that, um, and anyone can go to it. It's monstertonedmorgans.com. That site's been around for many, many, many years. They don't sell anything on there, I don't think. It's just information.
Right.
But there's a collection of about 200 genuinely monster tone Morgans that all have nicknames. So one might be known as Starburst, one might be known as the Orion. They literally all have nicknames because of the toning. Um, those are the kings of the castle there.
Hmm, for sure. Well, I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Go back here. Where am I? How do you balance eye appeal versus grade when making a buying decision?
Well, to me, eye appeal you have to like what you're looking at.
Hmm.
You know, when you collect coins, any real collector, we pull our stuff out from time to time. And even though we've looked at it a million times before, we want to look at it again. And when I pull out a coin from a sleeve, I'm not so much looking at the what the label says. I'm looking at the coin. So I've had this many, many, many times where I've had a coin that's a high grade, but the coin looks like crap.
Ugh.
But it's still a high grade. If you take a loop to it, you can see all the details there. The fields are clean. Um, it's just that it might be just a very dull coin. I've had coins that like are almost black looking, that are just not pretty at all, but grade high. So to me, I like the luster, I like vibrancy. So the eye appeal is much more important, at least for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you can have a highest grade, but yeah, that looks like nothing. Yeah, I mean that's the whole point is the of the tone, um, at least for toning, I would say. Um, and yeah, eye appeal for sure. Like, I mean, if you're gonna collect something that you don't like is just for high value, it's like there has to be a balance. Yeah,
Yep, yep.
for
In
sure.
fact, we
But,
we have we have on our eBay it's an 1883 Shield nickel, and someone
oh,
messaged us the other day and said, can you send me some better pictures? Which we did. We sent some better photos over,
yeah.
and he thought that the coin was undergraded. He
Wow.
was like, "Wow, that coin it looks much nice." I think they undergraded that coin. He didn't end up buying it, but I appreciated him saying that. So eye appeal is important.
Yeah, that's the same in the card industry too. Is maybe a grader was just having a bad day. People say that. I mean, obviously it's not supposed to be emotional, but like when it comes to the business, I mean, they might take not that much time to look at a certain coin. It might be 10 seconds less, and they're just writing it off. It could be a couple grades down, MS 68 or something, rather than a 70. I mean, who
We all have
knows?
bad days. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean that plays a role, but then you can always I guess regrade it per se, or send it into another NGC or rather than PCGS. Um, it's a possibility, but yeah, sometimes it's lower, sometimes it's higher. I've seen it with the cards. But yeah, that's another thing to talk about. Like, how long is the process? Do they overlook it 30 seconds, 10 seconds, a minute? And that seems quite a bit of time when you have to go through thousands of coins. At least what I heard from the card side is they give you a stack of them, and they're like, okay, here, go through these throughout the day, kind of thing. So, um,
Okay.
yeah, it'd be interesting to see what's the, what kind of grader gets what. Do they get lower graded ones to say, hey, maybe these, specific, quarters rather than, these Morgan tones. Those might be more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say which grader, but I have a small collection of coins that are 70.
Mhm.
They're Silver Eagles,
Right.
and there's no way they should be 70. They're damaged. There's big divot, in the coin or something else,
Wow.
and so I put those aside, and I collect those too. They're just they shouldn't have graded what they did. And this is to your point of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Some things slip through, and so to me that's collectible.
That's collectible too. Yeah, goes to Logan Paul and his Pikachu Illustrator as a PSA 8, but it says it's a PSA 10, but we all know it's not. Um, that sold for 16 million. But yeah, that's
Hold on, what 60 million?
16 16.
What card was that? A
It's
card?
Pikachu Illustrator card, so it was only given out at a specific event, I believe, in Japan in the late 90s.
How
There's
many were given out?
I think like a handful of them, and there's only two or three, to my knowledge, that exist. I mean, it could be, yeah, there's really not that many. And the grade for them has all been like PSA 8 or 9. And for some reason, Logan Paul, who traded one for a 9 or 10 or something like that, how he got one graded to a 10. And everybody is like, no, the grade should be like an 8 because of the the card the borders around the card don't match what would be a 10. There has to be a certain,
Okay.
dimensions when it comes to the grading or the borders of the card, stuff like that. Condition wise, it's good, but and the surface and all that because of the hollow. But when it comes to the borders, yeah. So, um, but yeah, sold for 16 million. That's what has made the market move. Actually, a lot of people from different industries are starting to move into it. But yeah, it's interesting like how those grading kind of parameters play across the board people look at certain things. It could be a small divot, like you said, and that could be a major grade lower, but it could be overlooked. So yeah, it's the same across the board. Things that should or shouldn't look like they should at that grade happen to pass that grade for some reason. Or I've sent stuff in where I clearly know these are higher grades, but because they're considered vintage, like older cards, they're getting a huge like um there's a big hurdle in the industry because everyone's getting newer cards and they're passing easily because the quality is just like instantly. People are not playing with them; they're just for value. So there's a difference
Yep.
between like older. It's like everyone's kind of managed them as kids and stuff. It's like there's not a lot of them that are in that good condition. So um,
What year does vintage end with the cards?
vintage for Pokemon, I would say 2020 or 2004 maybe. I think vintage is considered when um, Game Free or no Wizards of the West Coast, which are the ones that are manufacturing and printing the cards, their contract ended, and then Nintendo and the Pokemon company took over the printing. So I think it's considered 2004. Um,
Okay.
and then from there, between 2020, I believe, that's called mid era. So there's like a good gap of like 16 years of mid era cards, which I've come to learn. Um, and then everything is just like modern, is what's considered. Um, so yeah, I mean it's very there's a lot of parallels in the hobby, in different hobbies, actually, when it comes to grading and what to look for, and what to certain niches. And yeah, it's interesting to see that kind of across many
They're
different
the same. It's the same exact thing. It's a
yeah
different product.
yeah same thing, yeah, same thing. And yeah, so it's good to see something like a Morgan or like anything really aligns to what I see every day. So but yeah, I hope everybody gets something out of this. Of course, be sure to subscribe, give us a call. 561-310-8341, uniquecoins, gmail.com, website, Linktree, American Coin, ACC, eBay, American CC. You can find us everywhere, American Coin and Currency, on all major platforms. And we have some really good content coming out. And I think we have one more question. What is the Wallace Tom Morgan? I think that's, yeah. I think we pretty much touched on that, but you mentioned some of those key dates that you came across.
The wildest tone Morgan I've ever come across. Uh, real quick, one thing we didn't bring up was tone Morgans that are in rolls.
Ah,
So that's
yes.
another place where Morgans would tone, and it would only be the end coins. So
Um,
the
okay.
Federal Reserve Bank or the Federal Reserve would create money, still does, but back in the day they would create these, and for banks they would send rolls out. Like I showed that penny roll the other week that said like Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago.
Right.
Same premise, but it's a roll for Morgans. And so if these Morgans sat in these rolls for, many, many, many years, and the conditions were right, the two end pieces would get toning where they were hitting the paper. So
Mhm.
it's a different type of toning that occurs. It's called end roll toning. And yeah, so I was opening up a roll that probably had not been opened in decades, that I bought a while back.
Mhm.
And it was like Charlie Bucket opening up the candy bar and finding Wonka's golden ticket, because I
Wow.
opened up that end roll and I just saw this vibrant color just come out, and it had all the hallmarks of an end roll toned Morgan. So that's the wildest one that I've ever discovered myself. Of course, we've
Mhm.
purchased ones that for to resell that are more significant, but that's not the same as finding one.
Right. That's true. Yeah, definitely finding some in the wild. That's important. But yeah, that makes sense. It would be the ends and not the middle because it's less circulated in the middle of
Yeah,
the.
they're just metal on metal.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Well, we're over an hour, of course.
Boy, that goes quick.
It goes quick. There's a lot we can unravel. I'm sure we're gonna have part twos of pretty much everything we come out with. But yeah, I want to start reaching out to some. I have reached out to graders. I think I'm gonna start honing into some graders and seeing if we get some people on that can give us a little bit more detail. But
That'd
yeah,
be great. That would
just
be great.
yeah, that was yeah. I love to get the inside scoop. That's why I've been talking to like people U.S. Mint. I messaged people U.S. Mint. We had Damstra. You know, yes, Michael somewhere there. I just added him. So, maybe one day we'll have somebody, but somebody in those positions. But definitely
Yeah.
thinking about. Oh yeah. But anyways, yeah. So we do have guests coming on this next month. We have some people that I believe they work for Apemex and Stack Bowers. Um, but yeah, there's some
Awesome.
some guests coming up this next
Great.
month. Um, we'll have the panel back. I'll be in contact with them, so we'll have
Yep.
them back on, see what's going on with them, and yeah. Any final words? Words of
Yeah,
wisdom.
absolutely. One thing I would like to say is we if you get anything out of this and you enjoy our content, please help us out on the other side by subscribing, by
Mhm.
liking us, because it really does help us out. Dustin and I put a lot of time into this,
Yep.
and we do it primarily to educate. Of course, we want business out of this. Yeah, I mean that's we're all we're here to do business, but we're here first and foremost to educate our viewers so that informed decisions can be made. And so, if you enjoy our content, if you gain knowledge, if you're learning things, please subscribe, like, hit that button. It really helps us out.
Like,
That's
comment,
it. That's
hit below. Hit the like, subscribe. It's hard to tell right here, but yeah, it's below. It's
it.
on YouTube right now. But yeah, give us a follow. Let us know. Give us a call. Always available. We'll give you guys advice if anything. But we do have a lot of inventory. I'm plugging our eBay as well. American CC. I just pull that up right now as well, so you guys can check out what our inventory is. Let's see here. Pull this up here before we go. Let's see. Pull this up here. And let's go here. All right. All right. Let's see. And pull this up here. Yeah, check us out. We got a bunch of inventory. If anything specific, we got some Morgans. We got some Proof Eagles as well. We got a lot of some interesting dates as well that are available. Anything specific, of course, give us a call. That's our number below, 561-310-8341. We got a lot of miscellaneous stuff as well since we've been getting a lot of collections coming in. So if there's anything that you're looking for, some designations, some certain pedigrees, specimens, course, you just get a hold of us, and we can point you in the right direction. If anything, if we don't have it, most likely can acquire it. So
That's
don't
right.
hesitate.
No problem.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have. And yeah, stay tuned. Some interesting videos coming out. Uh, John's been running into collections. Um, very interesting collections, to say the least. Um, and yeah, there's a lot to unfold. Starting next month, we're gonna will be us, and then after that, we're gonna have some guests. So, um, yep. Let's see. Final words here, or final everything.
I hope everyone has a great day and a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you all next week.
Yeah, thanks everybody for being here. This is American Coin Currency, Tone Morgan's Art, Chemistry, and Market Premiums Explained. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Peace.